You're not really an emerging brand. You guys are an established brand now, but we got a lot to cover, don't we?
We absolutely do. So I will say we're an established brand in the sense that now our royalties are sufficient for sustaining our operating costs. But I will say one of the pinnacles of really reaching that mature franchisor is 100 units. Now, our units are a large footprint size, anywhere from 10,000 square feet to 14,000 square feet. It's a little bit harder to get that many there, but we're almost there. So we're almost to 100. And when we get there, I'll feel fully mature.
Well, I want to cover a little bit of backstory for the audience, because the model of your business is different, and also just the experience of Lightbridge Academy. So you're not the founder, but you came in initially the company, I understand, back in 2014 as the COO and been
Correct.
promoted. You've been the CEO now for how many years?
I've been the CEO for 2.5 years now.
Sweet. You have 100 franchises, 73, I understand, are open, 20 some odd in development, and we have 17 company-owned locations. So you've done the thing where many franchisors have struggled with, and that's having the company-owned location and the franchise system as well. And we'll get into that, but let's go back in time. So
okay,
you start up the company back in 2014 as the COO. What was your background?
So that is a great question. So we are the solution for working parents and early childhood education. So Lightbridge Academy is serving children from 6 weeks to 6 years during the school year and up to 10 years during summer camp. So my experience has been always in early childhood education prior to coming to Lightbridge. So these last 9 years have been my roller coaster ride to learning franchising. And I must say, it's been a really an amazing aha moment for me to understand that franchising is the infrastructure of business and the way that the United States grows and our capitalism. And I absolutely love it. I never understood when I was driving down a busy street and I would see a McDonald's and I would see whatever type of franchise might be out there, an edible arrangement or whoever it might be, that all of those were privately owned. I think when we see that Marriott or we see that, we're always thinking that, this big company that owns it, but it really is how people are privately owned. So prior to learning about franchising over the last 9 years, I had the great opportunity to work in many different arenas in early childhood education. So I started as a teacher myself. I've been a toddler teacher and a preschool teacher and a third grade teacher. I've been an assistant director and a director, a regional manager, a vice president of development, a vice president of sales, so many different things. And so the person who puts their hand in the toilet and pulls out the Lego and plunges the toilet and all the things that we do when we're running a business. And I've been able to do that in so many different places: on a ski mountain, employee sponsored, for the United Nations, for Head Start, which is helping children that are underserved. So it has been a very wonderful career that led me to this point with 4 of my own children that range in age from 22 to 28. So they're grown and adults now. And so that's what I brought to the table, and then had the great experience of learning franchising. And I will say quickly, but importantly, that the franchise community is so collaborative. They're so open. They share best practices, even within the same industry and sector. Those bigger players out there like Goddard and Primrose are always sharing. And it's wonderful, Kitty Academy, to be in an arena and to be in a business concept and industry, franchising and early childhood education where we see such collaboration.
Most industries don't have the collaboration across competitors. And secondly, you touched on this earlier, where there's just a lack of broad understanding is that each franchise, independently owned and operated, is the small mom and pop that is putting in the blood, sweat, and tears into their business. They might see that nationally recognized name, but our government needs to better understand that each one of these owners are the people within the community, we would be in a whole lot better place, I think, with the legislation that's talked about now with this whole Joint Employer Act and everything. It would be better if it was better understood on really who franchisees are and how the beauty of franchising, this relationship of being able to deliver the product or service by offering the systems and processes and the resources. We've been in a better place,
Absolutely,
right?
Frank. I can't say that enough. And I have to say the IFA has done such a good job with advocacy and are really helping all of us and hopefully helping those in government places and just the general population to understand that when you do go to that franchise, that you know that it's a national brand, that it is your next door neighbor or the people down the street who are running that particular store and who are giving to the baseball team and who are helping in the parade for the holidays and all of those types of things, and having their children work there and providing jobs for people and being out and about in the community. And it's just a wonderful thing because it gives people an opportunity to get into business, but to have the technology and infrastructure they need to run that business, to have the support to be able to do it, to understand the concept, whether that's a food concept or early childhood education or working with cars or whatever it might be, or getting our hair cut, all the different things that we all need, and being able to place a framework around it and continue training and support throughout the lifetime of the franchise agreement, which is so exceptional. We just recently had an owners conference a couple months ago, and I call it my work family. I know the franchisees and the people in our home office who support the franchise community so well, their weddings and their births of children, and when people aren't feeling so well, and when they're deaths in families and things like that. And so it goes above and beyond the everyday of working that business to that community of who we are as a brand as well, which is very satisfying.
Gigi, I want to kind of get in your head here for a moment of back when you came on board. There's no question that your background in education helped when you came into the system, but you guys have already been franchising for 3 years before you come in as a COO. What was life like for you? Because there's emerging founders that are listening to this and they need to take the next step. They need to hire for their weakness. They need to now hire a COO. So you are that COO. I want to know what it was like when you came in. How many franchises were you guys at that point?
Oh, we had one franchise that was in the process of opening.
Okay.
So when I came on board, they were all company centers and one franchise that was beginning to open.
And like, I don't know, almost all of us, you didn't come from a franchise background.
I didn't come from a franchise background, but what I came from that I think we all in business do, if we do it well, is I came from a relationally driven, service-based, customer wow background. And so if you're going to provide a product or provide a service, you're going to do it in the best way possible, recognizing that people and relationships are the most important thing that you can cultivate. And secondly, you're going to do it through a process, and you're going to do that process over and over, and you're going to do consistently. And sometimes it doesn't sound fun, but if you do that process over and over and you do it consistently, the outcome and the satisfaction that the consumer receives and the satisfaction that the franchisee receives and everyone that's supporting them feels great about it. The franchising piece, I think for me, is best described as a recipe. You're paying when you are buying a franchise to understand exactly what it is that you need to do. With 17 company centers that are doing very well, we actually know what it takes every day to do it, what the problems are, what the issues are, whether those are macro or micro, whether those are external or internal. And if you follow that recipe, in most situations, it's going to work. So that's why that consistency is so important. And it's simplistic, but it's hard. And the reason that it's hard is many people who go into franchising are obviously entrepreneurial in spirit, because they want to start a business. They're not working for someone. And so they themselves already have good ideas. And so it's really kind of hard to stay in the lanes of what you're supposed to do in franchising when you're an excited person who's willing to take risk and willing to work on your own. And so it needs to be a nice symbiotic relationship between the franchisee and the franchisor.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fumey, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.